Hello and happy Halloween. Um, well, here we're not celebrating that much. I mean, here in Italy, but yeah, I saw some like kids tonight going door to door, knocking for sweets. Anyway, I thought to record another short clip or whatever, uh, just to I don't know, to do something, I guess, and something more into the motion design thing, motion graphic stuff. Nothing crazy, but I thought, well, it's Halloween, maybe something uh, flashy, something a little bit disgusting. And it's disgusting. I mean, it's not definitely a very nice piece of motion design at all. But it's interesting that it's all procedural and it's all done using basically a noise. So I thought maybe it could be interesting to share this with you. Again, you can just take something out of this and maybe elaborate on and create something that is definitely better than this boo. Anyway, yeah, the interesting part is that it's all a procedural setup and it starts with a noise. So I just create a noise. This is basically it's driving the this. Let me show you here. It's probably easier to see. There you go. It's driving this pattern. Okay, this I don't know. It reminds me oatmeal. I don't know. But the idea was to create something that has this flashy look. Or bugs that are crawling on each other or something like that. But it ends up looking more like oatmeal. Anyway, this noise at the top is driving the pattern that you saw. And I just animate the Z, the evolution on Z, right? I'm not sure if there is also, no, okay, so there is just an expression on this. So very simple one. On this side, we have what we want to reveal. In this case, it's a text, like a boo. The interesting thing, or well, maybe it's not interesting, it's just something. I linked the box of my text to a crop node. So whatever I text something, it will always be reformatted to just the text. So hello, there you go. So we're gonna always have bounding boxes that are basically containing just our text. Let's go back with Boo, and here the recommendation is something a little bit beefy, on the bold side of your font. I didn't experiment with other font. Maybe there are better one. Well, for sure. I was just looking for something pretty big. And that's helpful. You can also get the same effect by replacing your text with a pre-multiplied image. Boo! Let's get rid of that. So here I have a biohazard logo. And if we check the last node, we should just maybe replace this. And you're gonna get, well, maybe you need to reposition and retransform this stuff. So we just drag something like that, and you can have your flashy stuff appearing on top. This is our text. I reformatted to the 2K. I didn't even bother to change the default resolution. I just keep it as it is because I plug a reformat at the end to render out a full HD image or video. Then I basically reposition, scaled my text, and there is a blur that is basically scaling up. So it's basically going very, very blurry to less blurry. Okay, and we're gonna see what the blur is doing actually. Then I basically take the noise, I invert it, Okay, and at this stage, we're really just focusing on the alpha. So right now we are viewing the RGB, but actually I should switch to the alpha. Right now it's the same because the first portion of the script is basically working just on the alpha, and then here we are switching from alpha to RGB. So at this point, we want to view our work using the alpha channel. So we invert our noise, and then from this side here, we are basically grading our noise. Again, keep always an eye that you're viewing your alpha. So I basically use a grade to make everything a little bit more contrasty. Okay, so you see that I crank up the black point and slightly reduce the white point, but sorry, the gain. The whole point of this is that I want to basically contaminate a little bit my text with my noise. So I'm now stenciling out the noise from the text. So I'm creating this, pattern in my text, right? And again, it's not at full. Okay, we're gonna see. I can understand that maybe it's a little bit random right now, but when we are seeing the result, it would make more sense. So you can basically control this mix, and we are gonna see what it does on the final look. And again, there is another stencil here where we're basically mixing everything together. So I'm basically removing the text from the base noise, right? And there is an animation as well. So I'm basically going from 0 to 1. Okay, this animation could be potentially linked by expression to this blur here. So they are basically working in sync. I didn't do it because I'm lazy. And then it's basically all about creating the patterns. I blur it a little bit and I use an edge detect to create this organic-y look. So if we press play, now you can start seeing something. Again, nothing very interesting yet, but the base of the effect is there. Okay, so you see that this blobby start to grow, this wormy look start to evolve from nothing to something. And now I can show you that if you go in your here in your stencil, you can change this and make it like look more filled inside, okay, or just around the edges basically. So this is controlling this aspect of your text, of your logo, or whatever you're plugging in. And the blur, see that if I push it up, I'm blending more my text with the rest of the pattern, right? So you can, make it very sharp, or well, not very, it's not sharp. You still have all these nice like organic-y edges, but it's less blended with the background, right? So if you increase the blur, you see that you're spreading more of those stuff in the background. So you're basically growing the text outwards. And I don't know, I thought that this is looking cool to me, at least. Okay, at this point we have this, we have our animation, our text is somehow growing out of this blobby stuff. And then we want to go into RGB because we want to color it. We want to give some color to our graphic. So a shuffle node, let's clear everything else, where I'm shuffling out the alpha into all 4 channel. A grade node, where I start to give some color, so better to switch now to RGB. And well, it's mostly making it more contrasty. Honestly, there is a slightly bit of color, but the big recoloring is happening down the stream there. Then I pre-multiplied, because remember that we do have an alpha, so I pre-multiplied my alpha with my color. And I used a vector blur. This step it doesn't change a thing, honestly. It's just, I thought, okay, why don't we give more, why don't we create more of a swirly look? But, it's not really changing the look that much. It's just an attempt to create some vector and blur this little thing moving around and create some motion trail. At this point, you may want to pre-render this. It's pretty, well, not heavy. It's a fairly simple animation, but it may become heavier. So if you decide to use this vector generator and vector blur, I would suggest to pre-render it. Now, a big portion of the final look, it's happening actually here as well, where we are using the bump boss node to create some bump, to create some fake depth in our scene. So if you check it here, you can see that there is some, sense of depth somehow. We have some highlights. We have some, darker area around the letters that are presumably shadow or something similar. So in other words, we try to, create some different level of depth because I'm thinking that all this blobby and wormy stuff is not laying on a flat surface, but it has some different height compared to our point of view. So how can we fake it in 2D? Well, we can create some fake bright area and shadow to create some depth. And we can do it using the bump boss node. So we are here at this stage. Okay, cool. Let me close this. And now I'm using the first bump boss, sorry. It's not very big. The bump size is not huge, but it's doing something. And by stacking multiple instances of this node, I found out that you can get more control and a better result, or at least that's how I felt. This is another one. It's very hard to see it without color, so I'm gonna jump down here. So all these nodes are basically just recoloring our element, okay, our graphic. Okay, we're just adding some red and some color. And now that we view this with color, it's probably easier to see what the bump boss is doing. So this one is basically just adding some contrast. It's not really, I don't see any visible bump, or maybe a little bit. The big one is this one. Okay, this other bump is really doing quite a lot, and I can prove that to you when I turn this on and off. Okay, so you can see that now we can clearly see that some of these are sitting lower than this area. Okay, they are not at the same depth. Why I didn't stack this here with the other two? Well, I wanted to have a slightly more control, and because I wanted to blur a little bit my bump. Okay, you cannot do it here. Okay, you can just control the size and light intensity, shadow and stuff like that, but you cannot blur the overall effect. So I basically created a big bump. Okay, it's also nice, like microscopical look, something like that. But I divided this with the plate, or with the comp at this stage, basically. And then I regrade a little bit my bump map, and I blur it. Okay, give it a slightly blur. And then I multiply this on top of everything. And I can control the intensity of my bump now by changing this. If I want to be a little bit more extreme, I can raise it higher, or maybe I can leave it where it was. You can control that there. And again, the cool thing is that I can add a slight blur. It's not doing much, but I saw some, you see, some weird pattern here happening. So with this blur, I can fix that. There is some coloration problem because of this, or probably because of these bumps that are biting into our super white. Okay, so that's the downside of using the bump boss. But again, we're not aiming for a technically perfect piece. We're just trying to playing around and see what we get. And that's pretty much it, really. At the end, I'm comping all of this. Remember, this is a pre-multiplied image. Okay, the alpha is looking interesting. So I basically created a constant, a red constant, and I comped this over a red. So this is basically filling all the gaps between the different bits and pieces that are moving. Okay, and you can change this color to whatever you want. Okay, so you can basically recolor it as you like, exactly the same as this logo. So this grade here is giving this red tone to the overall piece, but you know, you can go in other direction if you want and make it different. I mean, I challenge you to make it look cool, but you can play around and see what happened. And then, you know, just a bunch of camera shake to make it less boring, and then some chromatic aberration. Okay, very random chromatic aberration using the God rays. I fake some lens distortion just to distort stuff. You know, there is no real reason, it's just playing around. Then a crop node, some heavy grain, because all this stuff needs to be pretty grainy. And then we have our reformat and we are done. Well, thank you for watching and happy Halloween. Bye-bye.